ICE will comply. That's just not a random observation. That is in an order that just came out in the last 24 hours by the chief judge of the Minnesota federal courts, Judge Schultz, who didn't take kindly to the fact that the Department of Justice, led by Donald Trump's leadership, so to speak, that Dan Rosen, the newly appointed U.S. attorney in Minnesota, has decided rather than to comply with court orders, which now number into the couple of hundred that have been violated in Minnesota alone by ICE, by Department of Homeland Security. Oh no, they'd rather attack the judge in an email. This is shocking, by the way, in an email to the judge on the public docket, claiming that he distorted the record about the violations, which required the judge to go back and check his facts and figures with all the rest of the judges in the district. And you know what he found out? He was wrong. They didn't violate 96 orders in the month of January in Minnesota. They violated 97. And since January, they have violated another 113. ICE will comply, the judge says ominously at the end of his order, or they will face criminal contempt. Judge Schultz, I believe, is one of the leaders of this new movement of federal judges to use the power of contempt in year 2 of the lawless Trump administration to bring them to heel. My new personal jam is going to be reporting regularly, maybe hourly, on contempt proceedings, civil and criminal, and I'll talk about the difference today, in federal courts. It's what I said needed to happen. I never thought I'd have to coach federal judges. I've been appearing in front of them for more than 35 years on how to do their job and what awesome powers they have. But I think they're following the leadership of Judge Schultz here, just like they followed the leadership of Judge Zinnes in Maryland, about how to handle things like when people get removed and sent to other countries against court orders. I think Judge Schultz is leading the way here. I want you to know more about his order. I've posted it on Legal AF Substack, and I'm glad you're here on Midas Touch. And of course, Legal AF YouTube channel. Take a minute, hit the subscribe button there as well. Let's start from the headline. The headline is that Judge Schultz is leading a growing chorus of federal judges, Minnesota, West Virginia, Texas, New Jersey, Massachusetts, you name it, including Trump appointees, that are pointing out the open defiance as a regular routine, not an accident, by the Trump administration, Department of Justice and otherwise, against court orders. And we've already had a series of contempt proceedings that have been started or have been found against the Trump administration. We just had contempt order issued by Judge Tostred in Minnesota, by a judge in Massachusetts, Judge Stearns. We have the proceedings starting by Judge Bryan for a hearing next week in 5 separate or 6 separate cases in Minnesota. And listen to the words of Judge Schultz, who I believe, again, is one of the leaders here, the quarterback of the strategy. He says on page 5 of his order, if anything is beyond the pale, it is ICE's continued violation of the orders of this court. Increasingly, this court has had to resort to using the threat of civil contempt to force ICE to comply with orders. The court is not aware of another occasion in the history of the United States in which a federal court has had to threaten contempt again and again and again to force the United States government, not a random party, to comply with court orders. This court will continue to do whatever is required to protect the rule of law, including, if necessary, moving to the use of criminal contempt. One way or the other, ICE will comply with this court's orders. I'll talk in a minute about the difference between criminal and civil contempt. I just reported yesterday in back-to-back orders coming out of New Jersey and out of Massachusetts, Judge Karashi in New Jersey, Judge Murphy in Massachusetts. Judge Karashi dealing with writs of habeas corpus, the great writ. That's what our framers and founders gave us. So if we ever get thrown into the dark, dank cells of a federal detention center or prison, we would see the light of day, at least in a courtroom of a federal judge. And he said there's been violations of the great writ in New Jersey, in this district, in this court, and it ends now. Look at the language that federal judges have had to use. Besides, I've never in my history, and I've been a student of the law at least for 40 years, including my law studies. and I've read thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. I have never known of an era in history in which judges frequently resort to citing the founders, the framers, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, John Madison, the Federalist Papers, George Orwell, lyrics from Bob Dylan, and such strong language as this. Judge Murphy, in his order in the last 48 hours, he said when he found that removal, Trump's habit, nasty habit of removing people to third countries that they have no connection to, like, oh, you're from Venezuela? Well, we'll send you to Liberia in Africa. How's that as a punishment? He found that unconstitutional for obvious good reasons. He also said in his order that the Trump administration's position is, as long as the person, when they get off the plane, isn't immediately shot, it's fine. And the judge said, it's not fine, and it's illegal and unconstitutional. Now you have Judge Schultz. Now, what Judge Schultz is reacting to is that on January the 28th, and we covered it here on Midas Touch and Legal AF, he issued an extraordinary order in a particular case where he did a survey with his other justices, other judges in the District of Minnesota, and came up with 96 orders that had been violated in 76 cases. Now, this is not unique. Last week, the person trying out to be the U.S. attorney in the District of New Jersey to replace Alina Habba, she wrote a letter to the